Witcher 3: Hearts of Stone is at once a horror story, a romance, a character study, and a classic fairy tale. And somehow, these disparate parts mesh to form a cohesive whole. This is CD Projekt Red's first paid expansion for its masterful RPG, and it fits seamlessly into Geralt's narrative. Although it's meant for late-game characters around level 30, it's available at any point in your playthrough. And like many experiences in The Witcher 3, the expansion's main draw is its twisting storylines and vivid characters. It's difficult to talk about these elements without ruining the experience as a whole. CD Projekt Red presents its own dark take on weddings, haunted houses, and the story of the Prince and the Frog. Quests never resolved how I expected them to, and seldom how I hoped. Hearts of Stone runs the gamut of fantasy tropes, but subverts every one. It's this willingness to take successful risks that sets these quests, and the story they compose, apart. Many of these storylines trace back to one man, Gaunter O'Dim. Geralt calls him the Merchant of Mirrors. Others know him as the Man of Glass. He's a character who makes you feel uneasy with a glance, and even when he seemed relaxed, I always had my thumb hovering over the attack button. But there are good people in the Northern Kingdoms too, however few and far between. Hearts of Stone reintroduces Shani, the medic from Oxenfurt, who reprises her role from the original Witcher. She's my favorite character here, and maybe in all of The Witcher 3. She's equal parts charming, caring, and clever. In fact, Shani's much smarter than Geralt. Your responses have a time limit much more frequently when speaking with her. She's quick-witted, but only gives that away the more time you spend with her. And if you don't remember, or weren't aware of the history that Geralt and her share from the earlier games, it doesn't matter. CD Projekt Red conveys this with expert dialogue and subtle visual cues. It's not often you can read into animated characters' body language, but here, Shani's lingering glances and Geralt's looser gestures tell a story in themselves. Once again, CD Projekt Red excels at capturing the details. Between these living stories and fluid narratives are engrossing quests. I planned a heist, recruited team members, and cringed as my plan fell apart. I also attended a wedding straight out of a sitcom, complete with praiseworthy comedy and awkward scenarios.
It's almost midnight. Time for the captain.
Wait, I'm not done.
Oh, yes, you are.
Even in the absence of combat and supernatural catastrophes, Hearts of Stone pulled me through with expert pacing. Well, for the most part at least. CD Projekt implemented several minigames throughout this expansion, most of which are tracking sections. Geralt's Witcher senses usually lead you only a few feet away to a breakable wall or hidden object that seem placed just for the sake of it. There's also an infuriating section that places you in a muddy pen as you try to herd pigs toward their respective troughs. The activity alone breaks the overall immersion, but Geralt's wide turns double the annoyance factor. And in the end, these activities are negligible in the grand scheme of things. When combat does rear its head, there are unique enemies and tenacious boss battles to keep the dynamism alive. In fact, I saw 3 such enemies within the first 2 hours of Hearts of Stone. I fought a mage, a headless swordsman, and a hideous beast much larger than Geralt, with more complex attack patterns than many of the Northern Kingdom's other denizens. There's this one enemy, later on in a graveyard outside an abandoned manor, whose character design echoes the horrors of Pan's Labyrinth. It's grotesque, it's terrifying. Its abilities make for one of the more grueling encounters I've faced as Geralt. Defeating that thing was both a triumph and a relief. For all of its storylines and all of its varied combat, Hearts of Stone houses deeper themes. Ideas of regret, apathy, death, and the passage of time pervade every character's motivations. This thematic pulse elevates an already great batch of content. Hearts of Stone feels just as much a part of the narrative as any of the main game's quest lines, but it also stands on its own as a memorable adventure. It may have its negative moments, and the pacing may be broken at certain intervals, but The Witcher 3's first paid expansion, it's well worth the return to the Northern Kingdoms.
I'd scooch along, kitty. This place. What's that? That. Digging.